stuff on LinkedIn, Twitter, and all. So yeah, now you have to dance. Now dance.
Now I'm dancing. I'm ready.
Dancing.
Bring on those problems. Topical comment for the moment. How did every product just come out with like a AI feature at the same time? Anyone else feeling this?
But I do feel what happened in the last 4 or 6 weeks was kind of an AI. Oh, come on. I'm not sure we understand all the consequences and what will happen after the last 6 weeks. Finance, AI, all of this. I think most of the VCs or people in tech just sit down and waiting a little bit, but observing like every day what's happening, what people are doing. Microsoft just bought OpenAI, so right now OpenAI was something open for everyone, and now Microsoft is the monopoly of what is maybe the biggest achievement for human in terms of information. Whoa, what does that mean? And then everyone has an AI component that is with also Web3, that we are decentralizing everything, and we see Bitcoin has a center in the conversation right now. So so it's I'm eating so much popcorn right now.
I know. I feel like the tech world in the last 6 months, let's say, has just been drama.
Ooh.
Like, it's crazy. It's popcorn the whole time. I mean, there was Twitter. Everyone was like, blah, blah, blah about that. We had ChatGPT hit the mix. Everyone's like, oh my God. And then all these other, like this acquisition you're talking about, the Silicon Bank stuff. We're having like an extreme drama moment. I mean, we're fine.
We're fine for now, but we don't know what will be the thing. People feel that things will change, but for what? And that's what I'm always worried when people need a change, and I feel that people need change. And change will happen. So I hope that people will not choose something just because they need change, or anything. That's my only concern right now, as personally, even in UX and even in tech. So they will say, oh, I need change, so I will embrace whoever promised me the world, or whoever promised me that will fix everything. And that, we know, if we know a little bit about history, it was not always a good decision.
It's true. And I think, it's interesting just seeing some of the AI things. They're like trying to change the thing that like is so fundamental to human beings that you're like, that's like not the one to choose, you guys. Like, let's give therapy, one-to-one therapy using a chatbot. It's like, I mean, that has a pretty strong human touch to it. Maybe we could like do some stuff, like maybe tackle data entry or something else for a bit.
For now, still, I have access to ChatGPT 4, and the thing that I love about it, by the way, is I can geek around for hours without the other person saying, "Oh, come on, that's enough."
That's true. This is great, Benoit use case.
It can be in a weird conversation, and the chat people will just say, what else? What else? Yeah, you want this? Let's try this, and let's try that, and let's go deeper, and so I can do that for hours. And for real, last night I did that, and I didn't sleep I didn't sleep because of ChatGPT, because I'm like, I have a friend now.
Benoit, one of the first besties with a robot.
I just bought a car recently, and I wanted to ask million of questions, but I can feel in the vendor faces. Are you done? Are you done? Just buy it. Just it's a car, 4 wheels. Just, but what about this, and this, and that, and that? And now ChatGPT is just helping me. So I can ask that a million of questions.
Wow.
And,
it'll be great for 4-year-olds as well. 3-year-old, 4-year-old.
Good break.
Good break. Why? Then you get just like, it just actually explodes because of like, when you get down to like an atom, how everything starts to get quantum and weird, and like the boundaries between things become like really confused. Then it blows up.
It can be pretty confusing right now with a ChatGPT. Like, who am I? Who are you? Why are we talking? Who you are really? And so, you think it can get weird, but can get weirder fast. So
it can get weirder. Oh, it's getting weirder. I think we're well on our way.
And it's good weird, I think, right?
I mean, it's popcorn worthy.
Oh.
But it's such an interesting contrast, I think, between the world events, because we had like, the whole pandemic thing happen. And we were like, people, it's really important to be around people. People are actually important. We live in a society. What? It was like, you can't just do everything on your computer and like everything's better on the computer. And then now we're like, just kidding. Like, I feel like we're like contradicting that, like finding kind of, I don't know. It's weird. Humans.
It's weird.
Such a bunch of weirdos.
Talking about humans, we have a problem with a human. No human. Someone asked us to fix a problem. So let's talk about it. Well, let's see if we can apply AI to this question.
Whoa. Oh, God.
That's not the problem of the week, guys. Don't worry about it. So this problem is from Jasper. Love this name.
Oh,
Jasper.
Hi, Jasper.
Hi, Jasper. Again, it was took from UX Stack Exchange, and the title is How to Show Page Titles that are really long generated strings, as well as in the breadcrumb. Breadcrumb. I don't know why I chose this problem.
I can think of a reason.
He wrote the big UX pattern article. pencilandpaper.io. Please check it out. Subscribe to the newsletter to know to be notified about new articles and stuff. But yeah, let's take a look at this problem. So, you want to read it?
Sure, I'll try.
Yeah. I know you can read. I saw you read.
I read, this girl reads. Okay, so throughout our product, we have some pages that are generated strings that can and often are really long generated strings. They always get long. But we also have pages with set titles that aren't, such as deployments, blueprints, gateways. Check the screenshot for reference.
Oh, ouch.
Oh, boy. Okay. My colleague removed the titles throughout the product for exactly this reason, stating that having just the breadcrumb would be enough for the user to know what page they're on. I disagree and believe this is bad practice, so I'd like to have the title. The problem is having such a long string as a title looks really bad, and if it's too long, it will have to be truncated, which partially defeats the purpose of having a title in the first place. Here's what the title looks like on the default screens. I'd like a solution to be consistent. Oh my gosh, it's a dev tool that's in dark mode. I'm so surprised.
Wow. The first thing you do when you install any dev tools is
Step 1.
Yeah, switch to the dark mode.
You switch to the dark mode. Yeah. Step 2. Start anything else.
Step 2, and to say to the designer, no, user don't need customization in their apps.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, you just did it. Sorry. So my colleague removed titles throughout the products.
Don't you love when your colleagues do stuff like that? It's so fun to then get to have lots of arguments in their place. So this is what it looks like on the default screen. So the name is Sava 1.0/9050. Virtual host is blah, blah, blah. Root is blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Well, okay. You just remove the title. That's it. Oh, it's just the default. Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, so what's the problem? Let's state it.
And this is it, I think, with the breadcrumb. So we've got deployments, blah, 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 and then this long string. I have a few thoughts already, but let's get to the problem statement.
Yeah, he's gonna have problem.
Problem statement.
I'll let you write it.
You know what? I can say confidently, for once,
Yeah.
as a developer.
We know the user context as a developer of
the builds. As a developer who pushes builds.
Yeah.
I want to blah. So that's blah.
Okay. Interesting. So I want to. So the title is on top. It's too long. So there's two questions here. How to show a page title early alone. That's what the breadcrumb. So if it's a title, feel like the goal of the user is just to know where I am.
Yes. Know where you are in very no uncertain terms.
So that I know where I am. So that I know where I am. So that's for sure. I want to what exactly?
Well, it looks like they've got a log, error log, and web port. So I think that this may be troubleshooting. So that potentially. So as a developer, maybe I want to know where I am so that I can troubleshoot effectively.
Oh, so that I can troubleshoot. Okay. And one of my pet peeves is to remove buzzword like effectively. Nobody will say, so I want to troubleshoot, but with a lot of friction.
I want to troubleshoot, but I want to work for it. Okay.
So I can troubleshoot.
I want to fill out a form. I woke up this morning.
I can troubleshoot. Oh, what I love to say is troubleshoot in the next gen power tool of the future. No, that's buzzwordy. So I can troubleshoot
accurately.
So I can troubleshoot and then go to the next step. Is there a workflow type of thing they need to do here, you think?
Well, I think they're hitting deploy or this, I don't know, gateways.
That's just a default, right?
Yeah, like it says here, like deployed, blah, 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 blah. So there's a status check that's happening. Aspect of things, but in here it just says log, error log, web port. So I think probably you're maybe checking status and or troubleshooting in this kind of scenario. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
A lot of builds.
Sure. Can you complete the process?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So I can troubleshoot my deploys. I don't know.
My deploys. That's it. Again, the problem statement is not, how to truncate a title. It's never that. It's to know where I am.
And exactly, yeah. And also it's like, so I can argue. I mean, if you did it from the developer's standpoint, who's actually building this, they want to know what's the deal so that they can argue effectively with the person that took the breadcrumbs. So, option to do a joke one in the future, just throwing it out there. But I think this is pretty solid. I want to know where I am so that I can troubleshoot my deploys. So, Benoit, let's talk about our thoughts. Let's talk about our feelings. What's hitting
Our
you?
assumption, thoughts, and approach.
I have a few things. If
Yeah,
you're
please
not
go.
ready, let me know. This is going to be very maybe anti-designer sentiment in a way, but it's not. Sometimes data is ugly. The reality.
Nice auto.
Ugly.
Feel like titles are self-generated, right? Right.
Like automatically generated.
Yeah.
I think they said so. I think that's in here. Generated
Good.
strings.
So can they rename the title or the deployments? Or no, they don't.
Good question.
Is there a need somewhere? Maybe. Is there a need to? Maybe that's why they removed the title. Is do I really need to know everything that is in the title because it's unique? I just want to know because it's duplicated recipes, katana, for example. So he removed the titles because maybe it's not useful to know exact title and compare titles. You don't need to compare. Am I in the right document, and the right deploys, and the right blueprint? Because the path I took is informing me. And when I took it, it's maybe the date, last modified, things like that, that helped me a lot more than just the title. Title is not the unique, data point that I needed to choose the deployments, blueprints, or gateway, I think, right?
I mean, it's a good question. It's a good thought. There's multiple ways using metadata and stuff to reinforce where you are. Question I would have just about the readability of this string is how much information is actually embedded in this string compared to how much of it is randomly generated unique key. And why do we have to have 20 characters that are the unique key? Are you deploying so many that,
Yep. Yeah. What else?
And is there interest? Yeah, is there actual after this dash, I know that it talks about this machine that it was built on, and I know that machine is called 125 or whatever.
So there's no breadcrumb, really. Yeah, there is. Do you think that breadcrumb have a lot of levels? Can go deep? They could.
Well, it seems like maybe they're limited to this amount of levels because that's all they also have in the table view. They have because we're in probably a deployments page, and then the name of the deploy is this, the Sava deployment, Sava 1.0. So maybe you're in 1.0 and then 1.0.0. Yeah, I don't know. I was going to
feel like
sure.
You can deploy, feel you should be flexible enough. So you have, unlimited amount of levels. Because who knows? So one thing we have to think about is unlimited amount of levels. I think just design for it.
I agree.
Maybe, What else? What else?
Here's a question for you. I don't think we like really touched on this. Kind of touched on this, but like, do you think that if there is a prominent page title, like here, do you think that we need to repeat everything in the breadcrumb itself? Because if you do have a place where the entire thing does live and it's so ugly, or like it takes up so much real estate with questionable utility, like do we need to have it in the breadcrumb where you actually are?
Yeah, but in that format, or not in that, the way that it's displayed, because I want to know where I am. That's the problem. So problem statement. So I need to check, it depends on how we build a breadcrumb, but knowing when I am is kind of important now, because I can be lost, just, 10 minutes, looking at something else and going back to the screen. Okay, this is the title. Okay, I see that it's under what exactly. Oh, okay, I know where I'm at. So should it be there completely? That's where truncation is kind of something we have to think about. But I feel it should be there. Yeah, it should be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So let's start designing something and feel our assumption case a little bit more. Because it feels something we can. There's a best practices here we can apply. It's not that complicated. It's not. We'll have to bring an innovative, UI here. About truncation, I think it's our approach. What's our really how we can apply it. Of course, breadcrumbs. So there's ways to build the breadcrumbs where you have goes. What else in breadcrumb we have to think about? Location. I think we shouldn't talk too much about location. It's kind of obvious where it is right now, right?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Okay, well, so do we agree? I think that we do. That the breadcrumbs do serve a relevant purpose, which is to tell you where you are. Because especially if you're doing a troubleshooting use case, or you're in a complex technical tool like that, sometimes you can really come from the thing from a lot of different angles. Like, did you start in an audit trail? Did you, start in, this tables page? Did you start looking at the machine itself and then drill into things? So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of orient yourself.
On YouTube is saying that, well, the correct label for the title is not human friendly, of course. So what about solutioning right now? What about creating a human readable alias for the title? A tooltip to show the entire ugly string. So that's where I was thinking about, can it be renamed in a way? And then, yeah, maybe, show the sources of the name, or the history of the title. So yeah, maybe rename it is something interesting here, Chris. Let's just see if, without creating alias, without adding, asking a human to do something about it, let's see if this is for them before we ask the user to do anything. Okay, so let's do it as is. And Chris, keep your comment coming. So you're building a wireframe right now, and as is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Bam.
So I'll create a title. I have a little shirt.
Just trying to make it nice and dark mode so everyone feels comfortable.
So let's say that's the title. Just for fun. And
I'll make the breadcrumb.
Oh, okay. No. Small, medium. Yeah.
So easy to make a breadcrumb UI.
Yeah. I am also doing it.
I am. Yeah.
Oh, where are you at? Where are you? Are you
We're
doing
just doing it based on the data.
Okay. Here.
Oh, you're doing it all fancy.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. There it is. So we can add here.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Good. Yes, is right now. Okay, I'm pretty sure we have to talk about truncation like right now.
Yes. Like right now.
So when we say go right into truncation, because we really believe that removing it is kind of not great, because how do you know where you are if you don't know, well, if you don't have a map? So
Yeah, exactly.
truncation. So let's talk about truncation for fun.
Yeah. Let me just, little image from our breadcrumbs UX pattern article.
Ooh, that's smart. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so we prepped like a little demo of the types of things that we can see in enterprise or complex products, to just kind of bring up the conversation about how do we sustain utility on shortening things, and how do we be really intentional about that, and contextual about that. So the little breadcrumb that I put here shows that basically for this situation, this is like lab software, pretend in a medical samples. So we have the word instrument, then we have a unique run ID, then we have the word run, and then we have the date the thing happened. We have the type of container as well as an ID. And then we have another descriptor here with an ID. So in these different cases, some of, there's like useful information happening throughout these strings, but there's things that you could assume the user might memorize. So say, for example, the word instrument and run, say it's always like that, for example. So it always says instrument, it always says run. This system generated code on this one is used later. All samples of this kind of the instrument are the same. So you see that, like, when you think about it a little deeper, that we actually have different parts of each of these strings being relevant. So as they shrink, should we just put, an ellipsis, 3 dots at the end of each of these? Would that be the maxima? Like, would that be the most informative way to leave these things? Probably not. So you could imagine a world where the ellipses are actually at the beginning of this one and at the end of this one and maybe at the end of this one, whatever the case is. So that was something I kind of wanted to, get our brains going on. It's like these naming conventions have different little nuggets of info in them.
Deployments or branches or GitHub type of stuff, we do have this. We have sometimes the original name and we duplicate, we adding stuff, but the origin is your unique run ID if you want. The example that we have, thanks for that, we have recipe katana, for example, and then we're using it recipe katana, for example. So following your example would make, okay, let's truncate starting here, maybe, and then that's my concern. Is this the beginning or the end of this random string that we should keep, or maybe of it?
Exactly. We don't know, but let's just say end, just for the sake of Yeah, or maybe it's like a couple of different things, especially with like high repetition sort of things. I remember I switched over my SIM card and recently, and there was 5 zeros in the middle of like a 21 string code. And I was like, thanks for making me manually type this and disabling copy and paste. Really cool stuff. So maybe there's
something
something
here.
there.
I don't know how it's generated. I'm pretty sure it's unique, but if it was not unique, just the end of it, that change, beginning and the end, because like brothers and sisters, you kind of know the hierarchy of it, but we don't know right now. But I feel it's pretty much all generated, and how to be best at the end. Is it at the beginning? So when you look at all your deployments, for example, this recipe Canada, and you're comparing with the first characters or the first one, right? If it's another table, for example, it's not the last one.
Depends how random the string is. Really.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can't. But we could say that, maybe the beginning is actually better rationale, because if this is not something that's commonly repeated, and I think that, these questions that we're asking sort of get to a bit of a core of the enterprise software like UX design workflow, which is getting to know the data in an actual way, so you can make decisions like this as good as possible.
Exactly. Let's do an assumption that it's the last piece of a string is completely different, so it's random. Okay. Let me throw you something else then. So let's say that we have another kind of a complicated, I don't know, here, something like that. And we can change it from, let's say, this. Sorry. How can we build a better breadcrumb?
So as it gets even longer?
Exactly. What do you think? Because it could be very, we want to do, unlimited. Yeah, let me here just for fun. For fun.
This is fun for us.
It's
just saying. Okay, we got to make them look different. Oh yeah, okay. So you got blue. Okay.
just we duplicate, and it's a distribution under one, under extra. So that's a problem. Even if we truncate a couple of things, not useful. The title is good; it's good enough, but not the truncation. So this is where we do have a drop-down type of a thing in the
article.
The article. Wow, I'm searching for my.
Hey, we got it as a team.
Where it is? Breadcrumb. Drop down. Truncation.
So we do have this idea of like, truncating all the middle stuff and just showing the total origin. And then we also have this idea of the scaling them into a drop-down kind of idea.
So here I would change a couple of things, I think. Okay. I'll do a little bit like you, because I need to know, the origin. Maybe also cluster, and in the middle, I would just do that. But I'm if I would keep, his immediate parent here. You know what I mean? No, not 3x. Sorry. Things like that. So I'll keep just the parent and the child. Feel like.
Yeah. Here. I mean, one thing we didn't do in the article is get really fancy as well. with like the idea of expanding or collapsing any of these things. Which I guess would be like the most hardcore version of something like this. I mean, but there's very little UI that's going into a breadcrumb, so having a lot of control around it is sort of like a crazy idea, crazy notion. But yeah, so you're thinking
that this and this could be part of a breadcrumb, because I feel it's important to know bucket I am, and keep some of it. So,
yeah, fair enough.
Again, we don't know. Data is messy. We should be able to do some user research and understand how they are using it. Makes sense. I feel like. Now, what about tooltip? Chris said about a tooltip. Is it just a good practice to just go over and have a tooltip of the whole title? What do you think?
Well, I would agree with Chris in that a truncation sitch should be, you should reinforce or support it with the tooltip.
Oh yeah, sure. Let me add something. Even if the tooltip is that long?
Yeah,
why not?
Even if it's ugly.
Yeah, even if it's ugly, you're right.
That's the thing. Data's ugly. It's like very hard to stomach this fact, but it's kind of true.
It's true. So just a cursor, not and an end, and like that. Good.
Yeah, maybe like there. Yeah, makes sense.
Good. That makes sense. Not that complicated problem, but using the best already exists out there, make things easier. Want to summarize the problem for us, Kira?
Sure. I'm just gonna bring all these little guys together.
Please.
Kind of a little bit closer. Okay. Nice. All right. Let's summarize. Okay, Jasper, we got you. I know it's 6 years later, so I hope you weren't stuck on this problem for too long. All right. So Jasper's asking about long page titles that are generated strings, ugly sort of data. Chris has a colleague who removed the breadcrumbs out of the application and is wondering, basically how to deal with this situation in general when you have a mixed bag of like readable stuff, meaningful stuff, and long generated strings or like computer generated things, because long values are kind of difficult to deal with sometimes. So our problem statement that we came up with for this is that as a developer who pushes builds, I want to know where I am so that I can troubleshoot my deploys. So in this particular context, we're talking about deploys, so very computery kind of stuff. But nonetheless, breadcrumb best practices still apply. So when Benoit and I were thinking a bit about this, we thought, there is the fact that when we're in enterprise or complex products, data just looks ugly sometimes. It has utility, but it looks bad. That is like a reality that we have to deal with and kind of design for. The titles themselves, the really long strings, they're auto-generated. We wondered as well about, is there a possibility to be renamed or have an alias kind of thing that you could apply? Any kind of configuration stuff you could do to shorten them. Do they need to be quite as long as they are? Would be like an underlying kind of data assumption to wonder about in real life if we were solving this. There's multiple ways as well to give cues to people to assure them where they are and that they're on the correct thing. So that was something, the metadata around it is another way that you can also reinforce that information. We did decide that truncation will be the approach and to keep breadcrumbs because the point of breadcrumbs is to show, where you are right now and in some cases how you got there as well, right? So we did also think about, okay, what if this is an unlimited amount of levels? Like, how will we deal with this? So we kind of made an assumption that we'll need to scale something. And we wondered as well about this unique title. How is it formulated? Is there juicy stuff within the title itself? So then, as we generated ideas, we thought a little bit and kind of brought up this dynamic that we have as we're making truncation decisions to think about the structure of that naming convention. Where is the juicy part? Where is the interesting part in the naming convention itself? The example we looked at to kind of explore that a little bit is a clinical example where we see the yellow blocks. That's where the interesting thing is. So applying that same kind of logic as you do a UX design workflow or development design workflow is to really consider the kind of core details of the data. So what we came up with in the end is basically, we also were imagining it scaling to be even more intense than the example. So a couple of things we can do here as the breadcrumb is really growing horizontally, we begin to introduce truncation into the mix. We just made an assumption that these characters within the string, the first 4 are really interesting, but it could be way different than that. We just had to make an assumption to go forward. And then at the point that they're really exceeding the amount of space allotted and the space available, then we start to actually use a drop-down to deal with the values that are inside. Any case that we have truncation as well, we like to use tooltips to support you doing a bit of a quick glance and not totally losing that like quick glance thing that you could do before. And that really just reinforces the whole string and keeps the meaning somewhere on the page. So that's what we came up for you, Jasper. Yeah. Hopefully this will arm others with some good rationale and logic around why breadcrumbs should be there.
Exactly. Beautiful breadcrumb. I think we'll attract hackers more than birds. That's for sure. So again, problem like that, please share it to us, contact us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Please subscribe to our newsletter, pensignpaper.io/newsletter. You will be informed and notified every time we have a new articles. We do have courses coming soon that I'm pretty sure you'll like. You'll love, in fact. So again, thank you, Kira. That was a nice problem of the week. See you next week.